What's up, everyone? My name is James. I wanted to take a quick minute and thank you guys so much for checking out my YouTube channel and kind of discuss a little bit about why I decided to start doing this. So if you happen to watch my unboxing video for Video Games Monthly, I kind of go into detail about how growing up my family didn't really have the money to go out and buy me new games all the time. And even when I went out to rent games, I was always afraid to rent something that I had never played before. So most of the games that I was introduced to were because a friend of mine had it, or they were at an arcade or something like that. So as I got older, I started doing what I could to kind of hold on to my childhood. So originally I just started collecting some of the consoles and the games that I had played and that I loved as a kid. But as I started to kind of introduce myself to this world of collecting, I began to realize how many amazing games out there existed that I never had the chance to play. So that's kind of when the obsession kind of kicked in. So anyway, what I wanted to do today was kind of go over some of the pickups I had for the month of June. So the fun thing was this was the first month that the wife and I finally had the chance to go out and do some yard sales. So I didn't come across anything fantastic, but I picked up a few cool things that I'm proud of. So let's go and get started, shall we? So the first few things I want to talk about were a couple of games I actually picked up from a local video game store. So the first one I picked up was Final Fight for the Super Nintendo. Now, growing up, I was a huge fan of the Streets of Rage series on the Sega Genesis, and let's be honest, they basically ripped off Final Fight. But they did a good job of it, I guess you could say. So this was the first time I actually had the chance to play Final Fight, and I was not disappointed. I actually had a lot of fun with this one. So I do want to get the rest of the series. I know it's a little bit pricier, so hopefully maybe one day I'll come across a good deal. Who knows? So next up, I got Infamous on the PS3. This is the game I really liked playing when it first came out. I love the second one. I started playing the one on the PS4, but I like it, but it just hasn't intrigued me as much as say the first two did. So I'll pick it back up eventually and start playing again. Maybe I'll fall in love with it. Who knows? Next up, I got Borderlands 2. I actually picked up the first Borderlands the month before and was playing through that a little bit, so of course I had to pick up Borderlands 2. Love both of these games. I have a blast with them. Next up, we got BioShock 2. I also picked up the first BioShock when I picked up Borderlands, the first one. So played through that one, had a fun time with it. It's such a weird game, but I really like it. It's just an interesting story. So the funny thing is, the first time I played BioShock and Borderlands, I honestly didn't really like them that much, and I couldn't really get into them. So both the games, I kind of stopped playing them for, after a while, and about, 2 or 3 months later, I picked them back up, and it was like almost immediately I was like sucked into them. So sometimes you just have to give games a second chance to really kind of get into them. So definitely two of my favorite series on the PS3. So I came across a couple of PS2 games. Basically the guy had a stack of them, so I told him, give me a price and I'll take them all off your hands. So I got a good deal on all of these. Didn't pay a whole lot. I got a couple of silly ones like Cars, Race-O-Rama. Honestly, this wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but definitely not a game I'll probably play often. I might pop it in for like a joke or something like that. Definitely one that's kind of a joke. SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. I actually did try to play this one for a little bit, and I was actually worried that it wasn't going to work because there's a pretty nasty scratch on the back. But it worked for about 30 minutes, so I don't know. Doubt I'll really pop this one ever in again, but who knows when some kids are over. It's a game they can play. I picked up Gran Turismo 3. I'm not a huge fan of the Gran Turismo series, primarily because I suck at them. But I actually did kind of enjoy this one a little bit, so I might pop it back in and try it out again, see if I'm not good at them. I don't know if it's the, simulation racing games. I'm not very good at them. I do like my arcade racers, so that might have something to do with it. But anyway, still pretty cool. I came across this one that I was actually kind of excited about, which was Ultimate Spider-Man. This one's actually worth a little bit more than I expected, but it actually is a pretty cool game. I actually did have fun with this one, so This one's definitely one I'll be playing again. Also came across Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition Remix. This one was okay. I don't think there was anything extraordinarily fancy about it, but you know, it's by Rockstar Games, which is kind of cool, but I don't know. I'll have to give it another chance before I can really, you know, say for sure if I like it. Next up, we got Battlefield 2 Modern Combat. I did play this one for about 30 minutes, and I kind of actually did enjoy it. I'm not a huge fan of war games, but I thought it was kind of neat. I don't know if it gets any better or if it gets any worse. I don't know. Let me know. But I will definitely check this one out again, see if I see how far I'll get into it. A game I'm not too excited about, Sonic Unleashed. I loved my Sonic games growing up, but as we all know, the new ones just aren't the same. And I popped this one in for a little while, and I love the parts where you're Sonic, but once you become the werewolf, it just kind of just goes all downhill for me. But anyway, still, I guess it's cool to add to the collection. Here's one I was kind of excited about, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. I love this game. I played this on the original Xbox. I had a blast with this one. This is so far the only Grand Theft Auto game that I've really actually sat down and played instead of going around just causing mass chaos. Something about it, I don't know if it's the soundtrack or what, because I definitely love the soundtrack to the game. All the 80s pop music, it's just brilliant. So definitely glad to add that one. So I did come across a couple of Tony Hawk games, which I was pretty excited about. The first one I got was Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam. Not a big fan of this one. It's for those who don't know, it's not considered to be part of the main series. It's kind of an offshoot, but it's nowhere near as fun or as addicting as the originals. So the ones I was happy to get, I got Tony Hawk 3, Tony Hawk 4, Tony Hawk Underground, and Tony Hawk's Proving Ground. So I did finally make a pretty cool find at Goodwill, at least what I thought was a cool find. Usually I don't find a whole lot at the Goodwills in my area. Usually a couple of, you know, mediocre games, and usually they're scratched up really, really bad or whatever. But I did find a original Nintendo QuickShot controller. The only thing wrong with it, there's a little bit of a chip there, but it does seem to work. I haven't actually played it because I actually don't even think I have a game that supports this. But I did remember having this as a kid, so when I found it, I couldn't pass it up. Got it for pretty cheap, so pretty cool find. So I was lucky to come across a couple of consoles while we were out. Usually I'm kind of hesitant to buy these at yard sales because you never really know if they're going to work. But if they happen to be a good deal, it's kind of hard to pass up. So thankfully I did get a good deal on these. The first one is the original PlayStation 1, which I already have this model, but it's pretty cool to have a backup, and it does work, which I was excited about, which is always a plus. The one I was excited to get was the original PS2 Fatboy model. I was worried about this one because, you know, any system with the motorized disc trays tend to fail over time. So thankfully it does work. I don't plan on playing it very much because I have the Slim, but just in case something ever happens, at least I have this one. So definitely cool to add that to my collection. So my last piece was the one I was really, really excited about when I found it. The wife and I actually literally just gave up after who knows how many houses. We were about to go get food and happened to see one last yard sale sign. I was like, you know what, let's give it a chance. So I get there and it didn't look very promising at first, but at the very end of a table, I came across something. The guy gave me an amazing price for it and I couldn't pass it up, which is the ColecoVision. So for those who don't know, this was not a system I had growing up. This actually came out a couple of years before I was born. But I am rather familiar with it. I know a lot of people really, really love this system, and for good reasoning too, because there's definitely a lot of classic games for it. The problem is, like I said, buying at yard sales, you don't know if these are going to work. So unfortunately, I brought it home, plugged it up, and was treated to basically really, really glitchy graphics and all this kind of stuff. So doing some research, I found out apparently that's a really, really common issue with these, and usually the culprit is the power switch. So usually just cleaning it up fixes it. which I did, and it actually did fix the graphics, but for some reason now I'm getting a lot of like static from the sound. So I don't know if that's the AV cable or what. If anybody's ever come across that, let me know. I haven't really done much research on that problem, but still got it for ridiculously cheap, and glad I didn't pass it up. So worth fixing up. Glad to have that. So it also came with a couple of games. Sadly, I'm only familiar with one of them. The first one I got was Cosmic Avenger, which is kind of a side-scrolling shooter game. It's pretty cool. Super Action Baseball. Mr. Do. I actually didn't even play this game, so I'm not even entirely sure what it's about. So, and then the one I was familiar with, which was Burger Time. So, if anything, the price I paid for all of this cartridge is actually worth more than what I paid for everything. So it wasn't a total loss, but still definitely a cool find to add to the collection. So thank you guys so much for checking out my video. If you like what you saw, please feel free to subscribe. I do plan on doing this at least once a month, and I have plans for future videos as well. You can also hit me up on social media. I'll have all those links below, and hopefully I'll see you guys again next month.